Mike Brown has completed his first full month as head coach of the New York Knicks. But what grade does he deserve for this performance? You're about to find out.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
You are locked on to the New York Knicks. My name is XJ. I'm a native New Yorker, lifetime Knicks fan, and co-founder of the Hot Hand Theory podcast and media company. I will be joined in a moment by my co-host, Kris Pursiainen, a credentialed media member and a reporter on the NBA at Clutch Points. This is Locked On Knicks, part of the Locked On Network, your team every day, and now the #1 sports podcast network on the planet. That feels so crazy to say. Locked On Knicks brings you the most detailed insights on the New York Knicks at least 5 days a week. So be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and YouTube, where we are so close to 10,000 subscribers, a huge milestone. So I'd appreciate you very, very much if you subscribe. This is going to be part 2 of Kris and I grading the Knicks for the first month of the season. In part 1, we graded the starters. This time we graded their head coach, Mike Brown, and the bench, and you won't want to miss what we had to say. And also, we'd love to hear what you have to say. And if you want to leave your grades below, we would love to see that. And I read every comment that gets posted on this YouTube channel. So would love to see your thoughts. Without further ado, let's jump in. All right, Kris, let's get started with the grade for the guy that everyone wants to know what our grades are. The Knicks head coach, Mike Brown, the successor to Tom Thibodeau in his first season. All of the judgment, the scrutiny, the results have been what the results have been. What do you got for Mike Brown with his grade over the first month of the season?
Actually, I can't wait to answer this one because it is the theme of the Knicks season so far. This is what everyone is talking about on a game-by-game basis. And that's partly because the same coach was the coach for 5 years for a team that had a new coach every year and a half. So people who are not used to this level of stability, they weren't used to this level of being used to a coach. Now this is new. It's different. So it's being spoken about daily. And I've written several articles about some of the differences, about some of the noticeable differences, whether good or bad. I've not opined. I've just pointed out several key differences. One of them being Mike Brown going out of his way almost to treat himself in post-game press conferences like he is a player. There was a game where he almost got out of the post-game press conference at home without revealing who won defensive player of the game, despite, the Knicks won. So they were going to award it that night. Usually the press leaks it before the vest and Tim's and hard hat photo comes out. And he said it was McHale. And before saying anything like laudatory about his defensive play, the guy who he is about to go to the locker room and award defensive player of the game to, he was like, and listen, he has to be a lot better. So he's fine giving out credit. He's also fine just being super open. Someone asked him about Kolek. He's like, yeah, Tyler knows he has to really get into guys defensively if he wants to play at all. Oh, okay. Wow, that's good to know, right? It's clear that was true last year, and we figured that out. If you have eyes and a brain and covered the team or watched them every game or every other game, you figured that out. But it's just flat out being said to you now. And so for Mike Brown, who is coming in and who's making these adjustments, I would say the adjustments have seemed intentional. The ones I've noticed, more corner 3-pointers, a higher proportion of the Knicks shot being taken, Knicks shot diet coming from outside the 3-point line. Last season, they were at 38% of their shots were 3-pointers. That was under the league average of 42.1%. This year, the last time I checked, they were at about 45.6%. So they're now taking more than the average team in the league does when it comes to percentage of their shots that are threes. I wrote an article all about this. I wrote an article all about Mike Brown blaming himself for the team's lack of offensive rhythm early on because he didn't know what to do with Josh and Mitch and their minutes. And I've talked about this with Gavin, where it's I think Mitch's minutes, him not knowing what to do with Mitch's minutes, this is the same guy who 4 minutes earlier in the same press conference will say, yeah, Casey Smith and the medical team tell me what to do with Mitch's minutes. But it's like, even when something's not his fault, he's going to say it's his fault because he's taking the organizational blame. He's saying there's no player you can point to right now when it comes to this one specific thing. But this. So for Brown, I think that's been a key part of his approach, holding himself accountable so he can hold his players accountable and have it work. But I'm going to go A- because this is a team that just had things communicated to them for the same way for 5 straight years, now buying into a completely different system. He had a plan, almost like a rookie quarterback. Like, he had a plan on how he was going to bring them along, when he was going to install certain plays or plays at all, when he was going to start complicating certain things. He was transparent early on. It's going to take longest for these two to adjust. It's going to be the shortest for these guys. It's the shortest for Mikhail because he was here all summer. It's this. So I have to go A- so far. I have to.
I mean, I like it. I like everything you said. I don't even have to add too much to it. Like, I was on the border between B+ and A-, to be honest with you. And I'll probably go with B+, but like he's right there. I just think, on the pro side, you talked a lot about it. His offensive approach to me has been really incredible, in my opinion. That's just how I feel. Like, I feel like I see his vision long term for the system, and I see the long game, and I think when things really, really click, it's going to be one of the best offenses ever in the history of the game. I really think that with the 3-point volume, the ball movement, passes are obviously up, tempo is up, and should continue to climb as they start to push the ball. And tempo is not the biggest thing in the world to me. It's really about looking for shots early, getting it across the line early, and then looking for shots. But if you get shots later in the shot clock, as long as you started your possession earlier, those late shots are probably going to be higher quality shots than they would have been if you waited until later in the clock to start your possession. Those are going to be things that are really, really hard to measure, but just visually, I think it looks really good. And the experimentation aspect that you mentioned, trying different lineups, even lineups I don't like, I still appreciate seeing them out there. I'm like, I could not like the lineup. I could think that doesn't work well theoretically, but throw it out. It's early in the season. Let's see what happens. And I appreciate that he's done that. A stat that I mentioned the other day, the Knicks have already played more possessions with 5 shooters on the court than they did all of last season, and they did through 12 games actually. So they've been there for a while already, which is great for me as a person who loves to see 5-out shooter lineups.
Dude, is that real?
So I only have through 12 games. I haven't looked since through the last 2. In 2024 to 2025, 82 games, they played 319 possessions with 5 shooters on the court, plus 12 per 100. In 2025, 2026, through only 12 games, Chris, 12 games, 416 possessions, plus 14.2 per 100. That's 12 games in compared to 32 to 82. It's a real stat.
This is not at all any sort, like, XJ and I are not sitting here being like, 5-out is better than traditional.
No, yeah.
So
that's not the point.
Now it's better. Now they're better. It's like, I don't even. It's just, why would they never?
It's just
they traded for Karl-Anthony. They traded for Karl-Anthony Towns on purpose, and then
to not do that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So like that's kind of almost. Jesus Christ, dude.
I like that on our second episode together. I've been able to just drop something that just blew your mind right now. It's really funny.
Right.
But no, you're good. It was a great derailment. I appreciate it. That aside, all those things I see as generally positives. I do think there are some things that can be improved. I think he needs to go to the bench a little bit more. We saw, with Jalen Brunson out, with OG Anunoby out, Starters playing a ton of minutes. I don't think it's necessary. I want to see guys. I want to see more continued experimentation. I want to see Pacome Dadier play. He went with Diawara for a minute or two. Yabusele, I don't think should be in the kind of doghouse that he was in before the Mavericks game, where he was basically playing like 10 minutes or less every single game. He's going to be an important piece. And if he's not going to be, you got to figure out how to get another big, because you're not going to be able to just ride with, Mitchell Robinson and Karl-Anthony Towns all season. That's not going to work. So to me, I think there just needs to be a little bit more as far as seeing what you have towards the end of your bench, getting other guys in, and just continuing to experiment and push things out there. So that's my only knock against him. But when we come back, we are going to talk about a couple of guys that may surprise you how we judge them, especially in particular me for a couple of them as well. So we'll get right back to you. All right, we'll be back in a minute to give more grades, but first let's talk about Quo. Let's talk about something every business owner knows too well: missed calls. When a customer tries to reach you and can't get through, that's money slipping away. Quo, spelled Quo, is the smarter way to run your business communications, so you never miss an opportunity. Quo is the #1 business phone system built for 2025, not 1995. It's simple, modern, and designed to help you communicate faster, look more professional, and stay connected wherever you're working. The built-in AI is a game changer. It logs your calls, writes summaries, and even sets up follow-ups automatically. It makes small businesses feel big and big businesses feel efficient. No wonder over 90,000 businesses are already using Quo. Try Quo for free at quo.com/lockedonnba. That's quo.com/lockedonnba. And yes, you can even keep your existing number. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. The NBA season is heating up, and DoorDash has found the perfect way to keep fans in their bag all season long. Whether you're watching for the highlights, your fantasy team, or just your favorite player, DoorDash makes every game night even better. DoorDash is the official on-demand delivery platform of the NBA, and they're celebrating with something called the bag drop. Every time an NBA player scores 50 points in a game, DoorDash drops 50% off your order with Dash Pass the next day. And you're automatically entered for a chance to win the ultimate fan bag. We're talking player-inspired drip, exclusive gear, and stuff you'll actually want. So next time someone goes off for 50, use promo code NBA50 the next day to get 50% off on DoorDash with Dash Pass, plus your shot at the bag drop. Dash Pass members only, 50% off up to $10 the next day after a 50-point game with promo code. Terms apply. No purchase necessary. Ends April 13th. Open to U.S. residents 21 or older. Visit DoorDashInYourBag.com for full details. DoorDash, in your bag all season long. All right, we are back. And Kris and I are talking grades for the New York Knicks so far this season. We're going into the bench, and we may have some disagreements coming up. We may have some surprising agreements. It's just been happening all show. I keep thinking we're going to disagree, and then we don't. This might be it. We're going to start with Josh Hart. Josh Hart, to me, has been up and down so far. I wouldn't even say up and down. I'd say down and then up. And so now that I say that, Kris is probably going to agree with this. I think he's on the upswing now. Overall, I got a kind of a harsh grade for Josh Hart. I'm going to go with a C+, which I don't think is bad, but I just think like, obviously he was hurt to start the season, maybe the back, maybe the finger, who knows, but he was like unplayably bad early in the season. He was like literally like, I was just watching the game and I'm like, he is hurting the team. Like he just is. And because it's so few games, I can't discount that because he's played better of late. I have to say that's part of his sample of games that we're judging him on, and that's just going to drag down his average. But he's really turned it around, and that's expected. That's like as expected. It wasn't like I thought, oh man, this is who Josh Hart is now. Like we know who Josh Hart is. He's turned it around. He's been critically important in the games without Jalen Brunson. Now without OG Anunoby, he continues to be really important as one of the few wings that they have on the team. And he's, like I said, he's bounced back really nicely. We know that when he's shooting and making threes, he's one of the most helpful players in the entire league that you could possibly have. But for his impact to not be contingent on his shooting willingness and making shots, he needs to bring insane amounts of energy every night. And he wasn't doing that seemingly early in the season. He's doing that more as we get further from those early games where, again, like I said, I believe he was just deeply, actively hurting the team with his presence. This grade is going to go way, way up. But again, I just have to count that in. Like, yeah, I just thought he was so bad to start, and I'm glad to see him turn it around. I think he's had maybe like 3 of his best games of the season in the last 5 games, so he's clearly on the upswing. But that's where I am with Hart overall for the first month. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is another situation where we agree pretty much the whole way except for one step, and that one step is what it obviously leads to the disagreement in the end, in the literal grades. I'm not too far off from you here, but I kind of am in the sense that I have him at a flat B. And I consider that way higher than I was expecting, given that we found out on media day he would play the entire season with a splint on his finger. We found out during a game in the 3rd week of the season, or the late 2nd week of the season. I want to say it was early in the 3rd week of the season. We found out he loses feeling in up to 40% of the fingers on his shooting hand, which is his ring and pinky fingers. So like with that in mind, I was expecting this to not go well at all. I would be lying if I said I was expecting him to shut it down and get surgery. But I would be lying if I said I was not expecting fans to be like at the point where they're like in unison clamoring for it because the start of the season has just been a mess. And then I was like, wait, but when things are a mess, when everyone's falling all over themselves and people are tripping and spilling coffee all over each other and into printers and onto keyboards, like who's the one guy who magically like Peter Parker, like gets the lunch tray and everything lands on it. Like the one guy who kind of always makes out in those situations is Josh Hart. And I think I am going to refuse to ignore, I'm actually going to overvalue the same way that, part of the sample so far is some of those rough games. I think I'm going to do the same, like kind of inflation of importance, not inflation, but like, what seems like inflation right now, what that will be more zoomed out as the year goes on, with what I referenced earlier, which is Mike Brown saying he felt like he didn't really give the bench unit much of a chance to get going with his management of the rotations. And he singled out Josh Hart and Mitchell Robinson. Well, not singled out because that's not, he named Josh Hart and Mitchell Robinson as players who he was unsure of pretty much how to manage the minutes of. And after he's like the game that he said that and on has been that turnaround for Josh pretty much. So I'm going to go ahead and say, whether it's correct or not, that based on what we've seen, it's hard for me to not say, rough stretch, rough rotations, good stretch, more confident in the rotations. So it's been like, to me, mostly good basketball. There are some times where I'm like, man, you got to just shoot that. And then I'm like, I don't have a splint on my finger. Like maybe he doesn't at all feel like he can make that right now. So maybe his finger's currently numb and he just like has to pass it. Like who knows?
Yeah, that's fair. I think that goes into his grade, even though it's out of his control, obviously. But I think that you make a lot of valid points. And even though I give Josh Hart a C+, I give you an A+ for a Tobey Maguire Spider-Man reference, just off the cuff like that. So I got to respect that. I'm going to actually throw it right back to you to go with our next guy, Jordan Clarkson. What do you got for this guy?
This is simple, man. This is very simple. This is a guy who was on the Utah Jazz, was checked out because the team stunk and had no intentions of doing anything else. But even then, he had his moments. And it wasn't random. It wasn't like, Jordan Clarkson has looked a step slow, but then it on his 3rd and 4th points, his 11th and 12th points and his 17th and 18th points, he looked like a superstar. It was like from Monday to Thursday this week, he was checked out. And then he tried against the Lakers at Staples because he was, he played there before, and it's a huge market. And then from Sunday to Thursday, he was checked out. And then they played. So, like, to me, that's actually a better sign because it means that it's not out of the question that he can still do it consistently. I just think that there is something to what he has given the Knicks in raw point total on a night in, night out basis that points to him deserving a very high grade here. His defense, despite winning an early defensive player of the game, nice try, Mike Brown. The salesmaning did not work there.
He tried to pull a fast one on us.
He tried to. He gave Jordan Clarkson the carrot before the stick, and he said,
"Good point.
This is what you could have, my sweet summer child." And then went on to be like, yeah, man, you gotta look, you gotta keep him in front of you. So I whatever. But that's also not why Jordan Clarkson is here. That said, that's not always what it's about when you're evaluating a player. For the New York Knicks, Jordan Clarkson has somehow kind of been the exact perfect piece they were missing between Deuce McBride and Josh Hart. And he has just straight up had a B+ season so far to me, which for a bench player that's signed for a minimum might as well be a flat A. But like, I'm going to tell the truth and say B+. But that from what I was expecting or like what he needs to be, it's been an A-A. That's not what I've been doing this episode. I've been doing like, what has this guy's season been based on his circumstances? How can I grade his approach and execution? Man. That would be an A for that. That would be an A if it was, what were you expecting from this guy in the offseason? But Jordan Clarkson, B+ for me, and that's a high, strong, laudatory grade.
I feel like you're pulling directly from my brain. Like it's kind of weird, but I am going A- for Jordan Clarkson, but for a lot of the reasons you said, I'm trying to balance this thing where my expectations for him coming into the season and what he's actually performed, because at that point I'd be at an A+ probably.
Yeah, right. Like,
but I'm gonna stick with the A-. I just think he's done everything so well. He's been efficient. You and I were talking a little bit before we jumped on the pod, like he's added that element of rim pressure that he hasn't done since he was a young guy in the league, like coming in, playing for the Lakers, like getting to the rim and playing for the Cleveland Cavaliers. He hasn't done that in Utah, and he's reincorporated that into his game. He seems to make the right decisions constantly. He's shooting off the catch much more. He's making fast decisions. He's making good passes. Like, this is not Jordan Clarkson of the last 6 years, and I just appreciate how much he's brought to the team right now, and I just keep waiting for the shoe to drop. I hope it doesn't. I hope he continues to play this way, and we'll see how sustainable it is. But I've loved what I've seen from Jordan Clarkson so far this season, and we got a couple guys to talk about who we may not have loved what we've seen from them, but maybe they've been okay, maybe they've underwhelmed. We'll see when we come right back. All right, guys, we're going to finish up with our grades right after this. But first, this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement of this sports season. Whether you're following the NFL, NBA, or both, there's no better time to jump in on the action. If you haven't tried it yet, Prize Picks is the simplest way to play. You just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and if you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup, and you can play anywhere Prize Picks operates, including California, Texas, and Georgia. The new Stacks feature is a game changer. You can now pick more on Steph's points, threes, and assists in the same lineup. Plus, if one of your players leaves early with an injury, the injury reboot saves your lineup from a loss. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. All right, Kris, we talking about guys who may be underwhelmed. And unfortunately, I'm going to start this one off and I'm going to give Deuce McBride a C plus. And I don't think that's harsh. I think that that's, a solid grade for him given what we've seen. I've loved his shooting volume this season. I've loved it. Loved how he's upticked his 3-point aggression. We've seen in some of the games where he's just like, shoot, it's like miss. It's like, oh, well, next time, shoot, miss. Oh, well, next time, shoot. It's like, and I love seeing that. That never would bother me. The only way it would bother me if I thought that those misses would then affect his shooting later in the game, but that doesn't seem to be the case. So I'm all in on that. But the reality is, from a results standpoint, in terms of we're grading what has happened, he's been somewhat inconsistent in his shooting. His defense hasn't been quite at the level defensively that I expect from him, in my opinion. He really has always had the defensive tools. Last year, I thought he made a leap in terms of those tools translating into impact on the team. And this year, I don't feel nearly as much. At times he has it, at times he hasn't. And there's just other parts of his games I expected to develop more. His off the dribble game, getting to the rim. Those things haven't really come to fruition. His minutes have been sort of up and down as well. But I don't think they've been curtailed to the point where he can't get into a rhythm or something like that. And, even small things like he's not hitting middies like he did last year, which was a nice part of his game, honestly, late in clock situations, especially when Jalen Brunson was off the court. So I think Deuce McBride has been good, but, relative to what his expectations should be, that I think he's been about a C plus, but I expect that to continue to go up as the season goes on.
Man, I don't even know how to respond, man. It's tough. If I had said to you, I guess we're going to do the offseason thing, right? Like, what's a question you would have posed to me? Like, pretend we're in the offseason. What's a question you would have posed to me if you knew you were talking to me 10 games into the season about this guy?
Is he either the sixth man of the year or most improved player? Some kind of conversation like that.
Right. So, like, it's tough when you're coming in with that level to not look at what you've seen and be like, I personally am a little underwhelmed. I think any rational person would interpret that as like credit from you. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's pretty clearly like coming from a place of belief and not distaste or anything like, you know what I mean? So I will say that I very much understand and like share your sentiments that Deuce McBride can be more, can do more, can be better, can do better. Like, I totally agree. I also think that what they've gotten from him, it's about what they were going to get in this system with his shot diet. Like, I don't know. It kind of makes sense to me that there are going to be nights where he feels like he's 4 of 6 from 3, and there are going to be nights where it feels like he's 0 of 6 from 3. And because that's the majority of his shot profile, especially in this offense, that's going to swing his point total and his shooting percentages a lot.
What do you think about how he's been defensively, though, Kris? What do you think about that part?
That's a great question, and I have felt the same persistence, I want to say, from him with regard to like he fights through screens. Him and OG are like crazy when it comes to just like the pure effort stuff. I think that they're like maybe the two most impressive guys on the team. Defensively, Josh, I think overall hustle, like he takes the cake, and he's been awarded as such by Adam Silver. So like, I don't got to say it. I would say defensively, Deuce has been fine. And I say that as someone who thinks he's very good and who sees him as very important to a specific defensive identity with regard to what the Heat and Celtics did when they ran the East for what felt like half a decade, which was stop your first action and also your second action and make you get into the third one late in the shot clock, give you one chance at your plan C. Like, turning every single one of the other team's offensive possessions into like, you guys are in the Death Star and your auto lock is off, and like you've got to hit this 1 in a million shot, or else you're not succeeding here. Like that's really hard to do unless you are insane and have a bunch of energy and are ripped and have great instincts. So like Deuce, OG, Mitch, like much credit to those guys, and Mikal Bridges too for his particularly the instinct part of that. But Deuce's defense has been fine overall because I haven't seen him dominate matchups the way I have before. I think there was something to Deuce's defensive performances from the past, particularly the ones I like to reference are that first kind of breakout where it was like 3 guys had to be hurt for him to play, but like he's going up against Steph Curry and Kyle Lowry when he just signed with the Heat, so like was still a big deal. And Deuce just straight up took those matchups like ultra personally and won them. Just like won his head-to-head matchup against Steph Curry in a 48-minute basketball game.
That game was incredible, by the way. Like I remember that like it was yesterday. That was an insane game. Yeah. So like, you clearly understand literally exactly what it is I'm talking about when I say I have watched this guy do the best a guard can do at taking a game over defensively, where it's like, okay, he wasn't guarding all 5 of the other team's players, but he cut the head of the snake off both times to an extent that like completely stymied the other team's offense. That's really impressive. And that's allowed to be better than what he's done so far this year. But, who knows? There was a shot that he took the other day. Gavin and I were just talking about this, where like, it looked like it was going to hit the roof. He's like very much like trebucheting it over a defender. And you're like, that's going in. And it does. So, he's got to find a little more of that magic. He will, because he's a very high quality shooter from 3-point range. And I think, for me personally, I would give Deuce McBride a B+ for what we've seen so far. But I also like really, really, really like his game and everything. I think it would be fair, and I will force myself to give him the same grade as Josh Hart, a flat B. That's all totally valid. I appreciate your reasoning there. For the sake of time, let's see if we can just rapid fire the last couple.
We got like 3 guys left, right?
I mean, we'll do a couple of them, and then I think what we should do is have anybody we don't hit on. We'll have the chat, we'll have the listeners, the audience. You guys tell us what the grades are for the people we didn't hit on, but we'll hit on the last couple. We'll hit on Landry Shamet. I will give a quick grade. I'll just say B+ for me for Landry Shamet. He's just been really awesome. I mean, I'm not even going to look at his like percentages. I know he's one of the most efficient percentages of his career, if not the most. And he's just been so impactful in so many games. A little more consistency, but for me, Landry Shamet's at a B+, an unexpected surprise for me. What do you got for Landry?
Yeah, I saw it as a great credit to give him the same grade as Josh and Deuce, a flat B. I think he has been really important so far. That's the word I'm using, is important. I could have said great, awesome, excellent, surprising. What I said important. I don't predict that I'll give him a grade this high again the rest of the year. But
that's unfortunate. Sorry, Landry.
But like he's supposed to be a C+ player on this team. So the fact that he's a B for me through the first 4 weeks, that's actually really good.
And give me just 1 or 2 sentences on Gershon Yabusele.
Yeah. Yabu has been playing basketball for a year straight and looks like he is both tired, but also like very frustratedly excited to get back into rhythm. You can tell he's roaring and ready to go. It's hard to not just give him a N/A to start, because you were saying earlier games with 10 or fewer minutes. It's actually like if you filter out garbage time, those are all 6 or fewer. Like he was playing 6. Yeah. So it's hard, but here's what I'll say. I'm going to give him a D+ through this point of the season, because whether it's his fault or not, it's not. He is clearly not in the condition to be running a bunch in this high octane offense and playing a ton of minutes until about a month into the season when his minutes have correspondingly ramped up. So I'm going to proudly go with a D+ here and say this is easily going to be the lowest grade I give him all year.
I like that. I agree with your mitigating circumstances. It makes a lot of sense. For me, he's just a clear D. And I agree with you. I think this will be the lowest grade that I'll give him, but he just has to knock down threes. I mean, all things aside, he could not play well in other areas. You got to knock down threes. That's what he's here for. But yes, fun exercise. Hopefully you all enjoyed this. Kris and I got to do our first couple of episodes together and it was a blast. So hopefully you all enjoyed it. We would love to hear your thoughts, your grades for all of the Knicks, especially the bench for Mike Brown, everyone we talked to in part 1 and part 2. And if you're just listening to part 2, go listen to part 1. Who listens to part 2 without part 1? That doesn't make sense. Go do that now. And we appreciate you joining us for Locked On Knicks.